Braveheart Workshops, inspiring connection. Restore, renew, and reconnect in community. Live well, laugh often, love much. Join our online connection circles. Be empowered in our virtual live events. Be a guest on our podcast shows. Hire us or be hired for speaking engagements. Enhance hope, health, and healing in your lives. Creating global connections. The Connection Show, sponsored by Braveheart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds. The Connection Show, inspiring hope, health, and healing in 2021, sponsored by Braveheart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds. And joining me today, and we are not related, is Derral Reynolds. Welcome to the show, Derral.
Hi, Jill. How are you today?
Awesome. I know we both have the same last name, so they probably think we're brothers or husband and wife, one of the two. Brothers and sisters. Well, I'd love the audience to know just a little bit about you, Derral, so I'm going to read your bio. Derral Reynolds is a soldier for Christ and is running for the U.S. Congress 7th District in the 2022 election. His evangelist organization, God's Disciples, follows the mandates given to us in the Bible. We serve others. As an international evangelist and the host of The Truth Today, Derral's television show streamed weekly into 83 different countries and 236 million homes around the world, and he's not afraid to discuss the tough topics and bring forth the truth. Pretty simply, if it's not in the Bible, it's not true. If we cannot be true to God and stand for the truth, why would we expect Jesus to stand for us on Judgment Day? Preaching at rallies on the streets and at universities, Derral does not back down when Black Lives Matter and Antifa attack. He stands his ground. He does more than talk. He walks the walk, believing what we are told in the Bible about doing works. The Bible's our instruction for life, our roadmap to eternity. And all the things Derral has a passion for, he promotes Christ and helps the least of these. Every Christian needs to end being politically correct. We need to be God correct. Are you with me? If God is for us, who can be against us? So what a declaration, Derral, and it's great to have you on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I'm glad that you're joining us. And I would love the audience just to get to know you a little bit better. It just so happens that Hope, Health, and Healing is having a conference in Branson, Missouri, August 20th to 22nd, and Derral has agreed to be one of our guest speakers at the conference in Branson. So we won't go really deep into his whole life because he's going to share that at the conference, some of his life with you. So what I'd love, though, Derral, if you could, I really believe that in the Bible, Derral, when Jesus walked the face of the earth, he shared stories, accounts, and parables. And through those manifestations and accounts, there was lots of transformation to those who he walked and talked with. And so I really believe that our story has a lot of impact in other people's lives, and it can be very impactful for transforming other people's lives as well, and possibly then leading them into a relationship with Christ. So, Derral, I'd love for you to connect the dots, if you wouldn't mind, and just take us back into your youth and share with us a little bit what it was like in your home growing up, and any struggles you may have gone through, or what home life looked like for you as a child.
Okay, so I would like to add that in sharing our stories and our experiences, people can see commonality, and they can see, how we have overcome adversity, how adversity sometimes within the darkness we can find the light. And I think it's helpful for people to hear those kind of things and realize they're not alone. Their situations are not unique. In the conference, thank you for having me there. I'm going to talk pretty deeply about my childhood, So what I'd like to do is just kind of walk through at a very high summary level.
Hmm.
But as a child, I grew up with a single mother for several years. Uh, I had a brother and a sister, and we lived in the city. And she eventually got remarried, and then we moved to the mountains and lived on a ranch. And a lot of people don't realize, but farmers and ranchers have very difficult, hard lives. There's a lot of hard work that needs to be done, and a lot of things that run into long hours. And through some of this period, when she married my stepdad, is where I walked through a period of significant trial and darkness. And within this period, I also found light and goodness. And I think it's important for people to realize that when they're down and out and they think that everything is just hopeless, that it really isn't. That within that hopelessness, they can still see some good. They can still see some light. And oftentimes, it may take us a few years to realize that.
Hmm.
There was things that occurred during my childhood that I didn't realize until I was an adult, that these things worked for my benefit, that they became powerful in my life, and that they were light in the darkness. I also found that during my childhood, when things were just about as bad as they could get, I had some of the best years of my entire life. So it's a very mixed concept of people feeling down and out, but not really realizing that all isn't lost.
Well, and
That
what I also realized too, Daryl, as you're speaking on that, is I too I was raised in a pretty crazy household. Um, but I think sometimes as children, when you're growing up,
mhm,
you don't know what to compare. So for me, I went through years and years of insanity, but I didn't know it was insanity. I had no idea until years later when I started to get into therapy and found the Lord, how crazy my life had really been. And then at that point, I felt like God started to take that new knowledge and start to unpeel that onion so that healing and hope, health, and healing could manifest. But many times, like you said, you're living on this ranch, and there was good and bad. And I'm sure when there was times when it was bad, you probably didn't even know it was bad. You may not even have known it was bad. I
well,
mean,
it was
sometimes we
pretty
go.
clear.
It was pretty clear it was bad. Yeah,
It was pretty clear. But I'll get into that in more
yeah.
detail at the conference. But I think the thing that people forget, number one, God is always there, no matter where we're at in our lives, no matter what obstacles we think we're facing.
Hmm.
God is always there, and I think we need to remember that. I think through prayer and perseverance, and oftentimes maybe you just got to put on a different pair of glasses and look around at what's happening, and then you can find hope. Just like you said,
Yeah.
there is hope and there's health and healing, even in the darkest of times.
So
And
where did you live? Where was your ranch located?
so I lived on two ranches. One was in Walden, Colorado, which is a pretty cold place. I remember a time when I was pulling calves at about, gosh, I don't know, midnight, 1 in the morning, 65 degrees below. And I had to hold my arms out like this because my snowsuit froze solid. So that's the only way I could open the door and get in the house. If I'd have held my arms down, walk into the house, I would have had to like bite them off to get in. But there's an area up there called Fraser that's very commonly just over the hill from that location that is the coldest place in the United States, quite often during the winter.
Wow.
So those mountains were cold, they were tough. I remember, snow levels 12 feet, 14 feet high, So
And then where else did you live?
I lived in Encampment, Wyoming on a guest ranch where we had very expensive guests pay to come up for summer vacations and also for hunting trips. We ran trophy hunting trips on both.
So your
Both.
family owned the land and the lodges, and then they rented them out like similar like to Airbnbs, only ranch type of guest homes.
No, actually, my father was a ranch hand. Other people owned the properties.
Okay.
He was hired to run the properties.
Okay. And so you guys would have to do the chores then and help take care of everything.
Yeah, there'd be a couple chores. Yes.
So he was the ranch hand and you were the chore hand.
Well, he was the ranch hand, and we were the workers.
Yeah, yeah.
And he had this misnomer that when they hired him, they hired the family. And it wasn't until I was probably about, I'm guessing about the age of 14, that the neighbors hired us away because we were getting paid $1 a day for only for summer labor for like 14 hours, 16-hour days in the summer. And they hired us away for $350 a month, and we thought we were rich.
Well,
And
it's so funny. I say it as though it's comical, but it's not. I remember my mother would have us. I remember this distinctly. She would, especially when we got into junior high and high school, I remember it distinctly that she'd come into our bedroom at 7 in the morning on the weekend. Now, keep in mind, we'd go out with our friends partying until midnight or 11, whatever, and she'd wake up, she'd come in the bedroom and blast the stereo and tell us to get out of bed at 7 in the morning to clean house. And when I say clean house, like I'm talking about, we had to shine the sterling silver. We had to take every item out of the refrigerator and wash down the whole refrigerator and wash down the condiments to put it back. And back in those days, you'd strip the vinyl floor of wax, then you'd wash it, then you'd re-wax it. And so just washing the family room floor was like a 3-hour episode. And
mm,
and I remember feeling like Cinderella and feeling like if I didn't have the chores done in time, I couldn't go to the ball. So I would envision being the child of a ranch hand felt similar to being Cinderella that couldn't go to the ball until all the chores were done.
well, yeah, mine might have been a little bit different, but I understand the hard work you had to do, and it's for children. They often don't quite realize uh, the reasoning behind all of this, and for parents, sometimes they don't understand. Maybe kids just need to be kids sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I'm really excited. So tell us a little bit about God's disciples. I'd like to have the audience know a little bit about God's disciples in your ministry work.
Okay. Okay. So God's Disciples is a evangelistic ministry that I have founded. I have a few others, but it's the core ministry. With our work, one of the things we try to do is first off obey the Bible, and the Bible tells us that we are to witness, and we are to go out and do good works. We are to help the least of these. We are to do a lot of activities that reflect what the disciples did and Jesus taught them to do. And there's many places in the Bible that it does tell us that we are required to do these things. And so with God's disciples, I do various things. One, I do a lot of online work with an international ministry to try to reach people all over the world. I've built several websites. I have one that's called redemptionpath.org that will teach you how to be saved, the things you need to do. Then I have another one that's called aftersalvation.org that will teach those who have been saved what their next steps are in their journey with their new life. One of the other things that we do is we're working on developing a campus ministry. It's called Truthers Campus Ministry. We're having a little difficulty finding enough people to sponsor these groups. So if you'd be interested in sponsoring a campus ministry at your schools, please contact me, and I would be more than happy to work with you on developing the charter and the ministry.
So similar to like Young Life or Campus Life, you're wanting to
Yeah,
start up another type of a campus ministry at schools.
that's correct. Now,
Hmm.
a lot of my witnessing takes a different view than most street preachers or most people who witness, because in this generation today, very few people believe the Bible's true. And so you really can't, in my opinion, especially with younger generations, you can't use Bible verses to convince them. You have to first convince them that the Bible is true before they'll believe you. And I use science for that. I use science to prove to them that creation is true,
Hmm.
that God is true, and that Noah's Ark and the flood did occur.
So you go more
And
on an apologetics viewpoint of showing where the truth comes in.
yes, for the most part, I do, especially on the campuses. You
Hmm.
know, I try to debate professors. Most of them are scared to debate. You know, I'll catch them while I'm out preaching on the campuses, and they'll stop, they'll talk for about 5 seconds, and then run off. And the reason for this is the truth always bears out. You know, God created. Creation is what? It's nature. It's everything that we see and we know. And so everything fits together. There's no discrepancy between creation and science. There's no discrepancy between any of this. But when you twist this around and you take and you use the secular view of things, evolution can't stand for a second against true science. It actually violates all the laws of science. In fact, one day when I was witnessing, I did reach a doctorate professor in physics, and I reached him through a very simple fact, and that I used the example of spinning kids around on a merry-go-round. I said, you just spin them till they puke and fly off. What direction do they go? And he goes, well, they all go in the same direction. I said, yes, they do. So how in the world could the spinning dot of the Big Bang created the universe? Because we have planets that spin clockwise, we have planets that spin counterclockwise, we have moons that rotate planets that are counterclockwise when the planet spins clockwise. So there's absolutely no physical possibility that that occurred. And believe it or not, that cracked his armor. He was shocked. He just sat there for a minute, and he's like, "I've never heard it put so simple." And I said, "But it is simple."
You know, and
And
it's so funny that we try to make things complex. I my first introduction to what you're talking about was years ago. I went to a conference where Josh McDowell was there, sharing his book "Evidence That Demands a Verdict," and it was so profound, learning about the 33 books of the Bible and how they were written, and what I think what and I'm not a biblical scholar, so what I'm about to say, you may correct me because I could be saying it wrong, but to me what I remember hearing was how profound it was, where the different authors of the 33 books, some of them had not even been in the same regions, and
oh
as
yes,
they wrote their stories matched up with the other author's stories of the same account, and yet they weren't in the same region. So, how would that occur if they had not been God inspired? Because they didn't have cell phones and they didn't have computers or typewriters, so they weren't typing each other or sending text messages, yet they knew the exact story and storyline without being in the same room or region. And I found that was very fascinating to me.
well, and that's the inspired word of God. You know, God, the finger of God wrote the Bible through the hands of men. And that's why, like you said, that's one of the biggest proofs. But the real proof that the Bible is true is prophecy. If you take a look at prophecy, that Jesus only prophecies, not the other prophecies, the odds of them coming true are more than the atoms in the entire universe. It's a number we can't even comprehend.
Mm.
Yet every single Jesus prophecy came true. It is absolute, undeniable scientific proof the Bible is the Word of God and, in fact, true.
Hmm. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, so I mean, there's amazing things when you stop and you look at these things. You know, I remember talking to a kid at the campus one time. You know, give you a little humor. Uh, talked to a lot of them that have some pretty nutty ideas, but you know, I said to him, I said, you know, that building right there, it did not create itself. And so if I took all those materials and I threw them in a pile, and you stood there and waited, how long would it take that building to build itself? I said, it's a pretty simple concept. It won't. He says, but it's built and man created it. I said, yeah. I said that life and the universe is built and God created it. So I said, if you wanted to go over there and do anything you want, you can't walk through that wall. And he says, but I can't. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. He says, I can do anything I believe I can do. I said, that's not true. I said, there's two things you need to remember. A fact has to be reality, and it has to be the truth. Otherwise, it's a lie. It's a lie that you think you can walk through that wall. I said, why don't you go over there and bash your head against it for the next 30 minutes, and I'll come over and check and see if you walk through it. And he sat there and he argued with me. He says, just because I believe, I can do it. I said, no, that's not true. And so we went on and discussed this even further, and he got into all kinds of crazy concepts. But I think the illustration here for people to understand is a fact is a fact. Whether you like it or you love it or you don't like it or you hate it, doesn't change it. It is still a fact. And the fundamental rules of science are facts, and they factually came from our Creator.
So did he ever try to walk through the building?
Oh no, no. Most of my encounters with these type of people are their delusions and explaining how the delusions are not true,
Hmm.
or it's with actual adversaries that come to attack.
Yeah.
Like BLM or Antifa or other folks that come down and think they can shout you down. When in reality, they're just trying to express an opinion that is not true, but expect you to accept it for the truth.
Hmm.
And that's part of what's wrong with society today. The
Hmm.
Bible speaks about it. We've entered a time when the truth will become a lie, and a lie will become the truth.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, I think we're seeing that pretty much about everywhere we are.
So did you like watching the movie God's Not Dead?
Yes, I did.
That was a
There's
great movie.
well, I like Kevin Sorbo. I think that he is a great actor. In fact, I dabble in acting myself. I did some acting in California and stuff, and I've sent out a couple queries. I want to get on one of the movies he's acting on and act with him, but we'll see how time works out,
Yeah.
on that. But
So you did
uh,
you like that part though when the kid debated him in his classroom to prove that God wasn't dead? I thought that was good since you said that you like to show the proof and the truth that the
that's
Bible
right.
is definitely the Word of God. Well, we look forward to having you in Branson, and not only will Derral be sharing with us his personal testimony of some of those dark moments in his life and how God's brought him and transformed his life to that of hope, health, and healing. But he's going to help us at the very end of the conference on Sunday to lead us in communion and and just help out for you if you have any personal things in your life that you need to let go of. We'll be there too to hopefully bring hope, health, and healing in your life. Before we head out, I'd love for you guys to see Derral's bio here. So I'm going to put it up on the screen. His website is godsdisciples.org, and you'll be able to find him at that website. So, Derral, we look forward to seeing you just in, gosh, 7 days actually, 7 to 10, soon, real soon coming up. For those of you who've yet to get your ticket, my screen here has the wrong pricing. I apologize because we did have a price reduction. So you can see and be a part of this conference virtually anywhere around the globe. So Derral said he's ministered to people all over the world. So anyone around the world could attend this conference for only $18 for 3 days. If you can make it to Branson, it will be an amazing event here in the Ozark Mountains that are beautiful for only $20 for the entire weekend. If your finances permit, we have an amazing opportunity to minister to those that are in recovery, some homeless people, as well as veterans that can't afford a ticket. So we're looking for sponsors. I was out today, Derral. It was amazing. And got to go to an AA meeting with about 35 people in AA, and they all were
Mhm.
so ecstatic when I gave them free admission. And then I went to Elevate Branson, which is the former Jesus Was Homeless ministry, and they're going to invite their community. So it was really exciting. So we still need to sponsor all of these people that we're inviting, and you can help out by buying one ticket for only $40, we'll bring in 2 people that can't afford the ticket. And then as a gift from us, we'll offer you a ticket. You could either use it virtually or in person. If you could afford $75, that will help 4 people in recovery or those in need, and then you also get a ticket. So please go to Braveheart Workshops, that's workshops with an S.com, and register today. If you are a person who is in need and you need a ticket and can't afford $20, please reach out to us as well. There's a spot on the website that says I need to be sponsored. So we want you to know that we'd love you to be our honored guest, and we'd like to help you out as well. So Derral, we look forward to seeing you in Branson, and everyone will see you August 20th to 22nd at Hope, Health, and Healing. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thanks for joining me, Derral.
Thank you. And it will be a great event, so please attend.
Thanks.
Braveheart Workshops presents the Hope, Health, Healing live conference for men and women at the King's Castle Theater in Branson, Missouri, August 20th to the 22nd, 2021. Has the pandemic left you feeling isolated while in quarantine? A sense of despair and hopelessness? Yearning for connection and growth, faced with emotional struggles? A reduced mental wellness and joy where life has seemed hopeless, where health has been hindered, where depression has affected mental health? The Hope, Health, and Healing Conference provides and enhances a safe and welcoming environment, growth and grace with God, praise and worship, as you listen to speakers' stories, sharing about adversity, pain, and suffering, and never giving up on their dreams. And as you connect the dots of their stories with your own story, look for the similarities in each story instead of the differences. See how their stories weave and bring transformation in your life. Gather in community, receive communion, invite Jesus into your life. Allow your soul to soar and realize you are never alone. Meet the speakers, relax and have fun in the sun. Enjoy entertainment and shows. Connect with nature, God, self, and others. God's faithfulness teaches us not to strive, but to thrive in hope, health, healing. In 2021, join us in Branson, Missouri on August 20th to the 22nd, 2021 at the live conference for men and women at the King's Castle Theater. Register now. Tickets for this 3-day event are only $84. Be inspired by these amazing speakers. Thank you to all the sponsors. Go now to braveheartworkshops.com.